servant enduring, suffering servant enduring the pain of the cross. King Jesus, you are worthy, you are worthy. King Jesus, you are holy, you are holy.
You're listening to the Centrepoint Vineyard podcast. We're a church on Sydney's northern beaches with Jesus and his kingdom at the centre. We hope this message is an encouragement to you.
King Jesus, you are worthy, you are worthy.
Well, Dan, if you did not know, Dan Sheed leads a church in Auckland called Central Vineyard, and Tanya and I first met Dan. Tanya, what year was that? 18? There you go, it's a while back now. Central Vineyard is a wonderful church in the centre of Auckland, but I'm sure you're going to share a little bit about that journey. But we're very blessed to have Dan, who has hopped across the pond to us this weekend. Who have you left at home, Dan?
Oh, I've left my wife Gabrielle
Yeah.
and my two little kids, Jimmy and Florence. Jimmy is nearly 8, Florence is 4, and we have a dog, and his name is Cash. He's named after Johnny Cash.
Nice. Excellent.
There's this record, the American Recordings one, and Johnny Cash is standing there with 2 dogs beside him. And I remember buying that record and being like, one day I'm going to have a dog and I'm going to call him Cash, because it just all looks so perfect. And so we've named our next 3 dogs. We haven't got them yet, but we know their names. So we're going to have a Springsteen, after Bruce Springsteen. Yes. We're going to have a Ramone, after the Ramones. And we're wondering if Petty, after Tom Petty, might work, but we're not too sure. That's maybe more of a cat name, and I'm not really into cats, so yeah. So that's
Slightly cooler, I've got 3 fish. Well, I had 3 fish. I've got 2 fish. Taylor Swift. That was a Blakely influence, our daughter. And Miles Davis was one that died, unfortunately.
Oh.
Yeah. But I've got a John Lennon in the tank as well.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a theme here. There's a
But
theme here.
you've also left a Land Rover. I follow you on Instagram.
Yes.
You've left a Land Rover home, is that right?
Yeah, a little project that I'm doing with my
Tell
dad.
us a little bit about that.
My dad was a mechanic when I was growing up. Before we got into the ministry side of our story as a family. So I've just grown up around cars. I love cars. We were saying in the car, drive down today, when it comes to sport, my first sport love is motorsport. I've just loved motorsport my whole life. And love cars, love automobiles. So I've got this, this project, this old classic Range Rover that I'm doing with my dad. My dad's nearly retired. He lives 5 hours away from us, so we live in Auckland. They live down in Taranaki, which is down on the east coast of the North Island. And he's had this Range Rover just sitting there it hasn't moved for about 7 years. And it was his towing vehicle. See, the problem is that in the last couple of years, he's bought 2 more vehicles with tow bars, so he doesn't need that one anymore. And it was like, can I get this thing going with you? And it's actually just a lot of fun with my dad. Cool. Just being the muscle, and he can be the director, tell me what to do. Plus, it's a great excuse to get home a bit more with especially Florence, our 4-year-old, just to be able to spend time with Grandma and Granddad. So she'll do stuff with Grandma while I'm out working on the truck with Dad, and yeah, it'll be running next trip down. So basically, I get up first thing Thursday morning at 4 a.m. and throw Florence in the car, and we get down to Stratford by about 8 a.m. And then I work on the truck for 2 days with Dad, and then I drive back Friday night back to Auckland and get home about midnight, and then do Saturday and Sunday and carry on with the rest of the week. That's kind of, yeah.
It's a good rhythm, man. I like that.
Not every week, but when it's time, yeah. That's it, yeah.
Very good. Hey, tell us a little bit about your call to plant Central Vineyard in Auckland. What are you guys really trying to impress on that community as leaders?
Oh, maybe if I just back up slightly, when I left home, so I'm the son of a church planter. So my dad was a mechanic, but then in my teenage years, my parents planted a church. They planted a vineyard church. So when I was 14, I was in a church planting team for the first time. And then I moved to Auckland when I was 20, and I started serving at Shore Vineyard Church there with some wonderful pastors, Vic and Fran Francis. And they grew me up in a lot of ways, massively did a lot of growing up with them. and they formed me in a whole other beautiful way that I needed formation around. And then I was about 29 years old and had been there for nearly 10 years, and man, we loved it. Like, we absolutely loved it. We loved this church. We loved what was going on at Shore Vineyard. We loved what we were getting to do. I found, that beautiful thing of being the assistant pastor where, like, you don't have all the responsibilities. You can sleep at night a little bit better.
You can have some fun, and
the
buck doesn't
Not
stop
all
with
the
you.
responsibilities on you.
Yeah.
The email goes up above you sometimes, which is great. And then we're heading away down the country for me to take a wedding of one of my good friends. I was taking their wedding ceremony. And as we were tracking our way back from the wedding, we stayed the night at my parents' place. Popped in to see them, and that next morning, my dad, over breakfast, just says, I had this dream last night, and I've had this dream before, but in the dream there was no faces, but last night I saw you in the dream. And the dream was that you two, me and my wife, were standing in front of this group of people, this church, and you just looked at them and you realized in your heart that these actually aren't your people. It's not that they're bad people, they're just not your people. And then you went to the back and there was a bus waiting for you, and you got on the bus and you went off and there was a new thing. And Gab and I just were like, yeah, whatever, not us, like, funny dream, Dad, too much cheese last night kind of thing. And then we drove home back to Auckland that day, and then when we got back to Auckland, we're unpacking the car, as you do, and check my phone, and I've got this text from an acquaintance, like not even a friend, just an acquaintance, just a person I know. And they just said, hey, I'm at a conference and there's been a ministry time. And during this ministry time, I just see a picture for you. I'm like, oh, what is going on? Dad's dream this morning, and then this picture. And in this picture, this text said, I just see you're standing over a field and it looks like a garden, but there's no sort of sign that it's a garden. Like, it's not like there's all this greenery, but you just keep putting your hands down into the soil, and as you pull up, you're pulling up all these vegetables ready to go. Like, there's a whole thing ready for you, but it just doesn't really look like it yet. And it's time for you to, like, start sowing. I start pulling up the garden. I was like, okay. And then we went to church the next morning. That was like a week's holiday, and we went back to church the next morning, and there was a word at the front of church, very similar. And it was just like, what is going on? Like, in 24 hours, we've gone from loving what we're doing to suddenly feeling like there's some adventure being kind of pulled out of us, So we started a sermon process with our pastors about that. And for the rest of the year, that wedding was in October. By Christmas, we had 10 words written in a notebook. So we had 10 words that were all of the same nature. There's something for you. There's a call here. So I guess I tell you that story to say, we didn't set out to do much at all. It was like pulled out of us. It was pulled. It was called out of us, And then the last word was at the start of the next year, and a guy got up at the front of church after worship, just like Dan so beautifully led us in, and a guy got up and said, I see this picture, and there's a person here, and like you're scrubbing on the floor, and then you look up, and Jesus is like, come on, and you're like, yeah, scrub. You look up, and Jesus is like, come on, and you're like, yeah, scrub. And he said, I just think there's a person, Jesus is calling you, and you think the thing you're doing is the thing you should keep doing, and it's just not. It's time to go do the thing Jesus is calling you to do. Like, how do you answer to that when you're the assistant pastor standing in the front row of the church? But it was like, that was me. And so the next day I resigned. The next day I said to Vic and Fran, like, this is it. This is the moment. I have to say yes to this. And we put a line in the sand. And then he talked me back off the edge. He was like, do you actually have to resign, like, right now? Because it's do you know what you're doing? I was like, no, we don't know what we're doing. So he's like, why don't you just take some time, figure it out? But I hear you. Yep, go figure it out. So that started quite a few months of starting to figure out what this was. Because, like I said, we weren't sitting there with kind of like a whiteboard of, a grand plan on our wall or something. So what happened is, during the rest of that year, we just slowly gathered a very small group of very close friends and people that were part of this with us, and we got them into a lounge, and we would worship, we would eat together, and we'd ask a question together. And the question was, what do you think needs to be in a community of Jesus that would make it so good you'd tell anybody about it? Like, what does it have to have? What has to be in it? And we just asked that question together, and we dreamed about it together, and we just started to scope this beautiful big picture of people of the kingdom and people who are incarnating that story and living it for real. It really is being lived. It's not just an idea, it's a life. And we want to gather together and be in community, and we want to scatter, and we want to serve the city. And as we drew those 4 things out, we realized that it formed this cross. And in the middle of the cross, we're like, and we want Jesus at the center. And so that's where we called Central Vineyard, because we're like, we want this to be about Jesus. We want him at the center of all of this. So we went in the center of Auckland, we hadn't planted a church yet. We just had this idea of like, that's the church we want to make. And that was in like 2014, and then 2015 we started doing that. Yeah, that's where it all came from. So,
Amazing.
but it started by this call, it really was something that got called out of us.
I didn't know that story around your naming of Central Vineyard. That's actually very similar to our naming of Centre Point.
Yeah.
The idea of like, we want Jesus and his kingdom
At the centre.
to be central.
Yeah, I'd read Alexander Fenter's book, Doing Church, and he talks about
So
centre.
did we.
Ah.
There you go.
Wow, you're a clever
We
man.
should
You're a
exchange
clever
notes.
man, yeah.
I've kind of known you for a little while, but not necessarily well, and I've kind of observed you from a distance. And one of the things I really appreciate
That's called stalking.
that's called stalking on Instagram.
Sorry, John.
But what I have appreciated of what I see you bringing to the church is this kind of marrying of this idea of a life of formation in leadership. We were even talking about it on the way down here today.
Sure.
Do you want to unpack a little bit about that? Why is formation so key to who you are, what you do?
Oh, that's a huge question. And
You've got
it's
30 seconds.
okay. It's one of the this is one of the big pillars of my getting out of bed every morning. Is this thing? One of my life verses for myself around ministry is, I labor that Christ may be formed in you.
Yeah.
Those words from Paul. Like, I labor that Christ may be formed in you, fully formed. Just the highlight version of that is, let's be honest, let's get real. I spent my teenage years and a lot of my 20s in rooms where it was like, if you just have an encounter, it will change everything. One more encounter and it will change everything. You just need another encounter and it will change everything. And I have come to see, through many years now following Jesus, that Jesus is the truth. And there is a life in Jesus, but there is a way in Jesus too. And the way and the truth equal his life. And so it's this formation in his way, the life and the lifestyle of Jesus, the way of his kingdom. That I'm really interested in. I'm curious in it. And we do a lot of work as a church thinking how we can do that together. So we've done ways in expressing that together in our gatherings. We have some liturgies we say during our morning that are our ways of trying to help form people in this thing we're doing. So we don't just assume that they know what we're doing, but they're actually reciting it and saying it with us. And then we free everything back up and we say, come Holy Spirit. It's like this wonderful formational moment and this freedom moment. It's kind of this dance between the two. Yeah, and I love that. I love both of those things.
Wonderful, mate. Very good. I'm just aware of time, and I'd love to spend a little bit of time praying for each other.
Sure,
So
let's do it.
can I just ask one last question?
Mhm.
I know you're probably going to unpack this over the course of the weekend, but what's hot in your spirit right now? What's the Lord been speaking to you about?
Yeah, a couple of things, but a couple of things. For me, I feel like last year, just between me and the Lord, I got reintroduced to what grace really is, in a way that I needed to be reminded of and experience again. That wasn't to say that I had some big failing or anything like that. It was more like I bumped back into how extravagant grace really is. And I guess maybe with all the formation stuff we were just talking about, I just needed that wonderful reminder. And the Lord gave that to me personally in my own devotional life with him. But what's in my spirit right now is the vineyard. Like, just plain and simply. I love this family. I love this tribe. And the Lord has spoken to me very clearly over the last couple of years about playing a part in serving the vineyard. being part of doing work in this wonderful family that I love dearly. And so I want to see the vineyard be the best it can be. And I long for the vineyard to be a flourishing and fruitful, vibrant part of the church. So I'm here because of that. You know, like I said to Jonathan, when he first asked me, it's like, dude, you've got vineyard on the sign. It's basically 99% a yes. Like, I will go and pray about it, yes. But like, I'm basically already there in the invitation to come, because it's like, we're family, and I want to be where the family is. So, yeah, I love this family. That's the big thing in my spirit at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. We're very appreciative of you making.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I didn't get to say it at the start. We just jumped straight into the questions. But thank you for having me. Thank you for making space for me. I know that this is a moment of gift giving together. Not only do I get to be part of giving a gift to you, but also I get to receive a gift from you guys too. So thank you for that. And I'm really grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here with you for the next couple of days. And I am looking forward to all the Lord's going to do with us.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, mate. Hey, how about we... Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. Give me one. How about we stand, because I'm aware that you probably want to get to bed for a big weekend, but I'd love to start the weekend just taking a moment to wait on the Holy Spirit and see what He would like to do amongst us.
Thanks so much for listening. To find out more, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, or our website, centrepointvineyard.org. Music is King Jesus by Sam Glover.
Pain of the cross, King Jesus, you are worthy, you are worthy. King Jesus, you are holy, you are holy. Only Son